Do you need to solve an equation using the completing the square strategy and need a refresher on how to do that? Or perhaps you don't even remember how to do it or don't know how to do it at all. Well, you've come to the right place because I'm Professor Capko and I'm going to show you how to easily solve this equation using completing the square. So you're going to need to complete the square. I'm going to show you how to do it. But before I do that, I wanted to mention that I believe that something great is going to happen for you today. Now, on with the video. Completing the square is another way of solving a quadratic, such as this one. Quadratic is it's got a squared term of some sort, and you could solve some of these through factoring, and actually this one could be factored, but we're going to use the completing the square method. You can also use the quadratic formula. Those are all subjects of other videos. We're going to focus on how to complete the square today. So completing the square is we're going to create a perfect square trinomial, and from that we will then be able to solve it. But let's take a look first at what we have here. We need these terms here. This first term is thought of as the a term. When I say the term, I'm talking about the coefficient in front of the x. In this case, there's a 1, but it's invisible, so I just put it as a dotted line. That's the a term. The coefficient, which is the number in front of the variable here, is 8. That's our b term. This is going to be a really important term, so keep that one in mind. Whatever's in front of the x. This one only has a this is just an x, it's not an x squared. That's going to be very important, and so much so that if we don't have an x term, or in other words, at least it could be, they could be y's, they could be anything else. If we don't have this term in the middle, we can't complete the square. So make sure you have a squared term and a term that's just to the first power, such as this x. And then you don't necessarily need to have the constant at the end here, but in many cases you do. This is the c term, and it's a good one and easy to remember because c, you can think of constant for that. So we're going to solve this. The first step in completing the square, the first step is always to move the c term to the other side of the equal sign. We're moving it from this side to that side. And we do that by doing the opposite of what's here. So in this case, we're subtracting 20, so we're going to add 20. And if we do it to one side, we're going to do it to the other. Another quick way to do it is whatever this is here, whatever sign this is, put the opposite sign in front of it over here. I'm going to bring everything else down. I'm not going to worry about this invisible one. I'm just going to write this as x squared plus 8x. This goes away because negative 20 and I add 20 to it. That's a 0. That's what we wanted to do. Equals, and then 0 plus 20 is a positive 20. So far, so good. If you're following along, go ahead and smash it. Really help me out, and I would appreciate it. So we now need to create a perfect square trinomial on this left side. So we're going to add some term here. And whatever term we're going to add there, we're going to add it to the right as well. So you can add the same term here, and we're going to add it over here. And of course, the reason we do that is because we want to keep it balanced. If we add something on this side, we add the exact same thing on that side to keep our equation balanced. What are we going to add there? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to take this b term here, this 8. That's the term we're going to take, and we're going to take whatever the b term is. We're going to take the b term, we're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to take that and we're going to square it. Again, we're going to take the b term. The b term is not the x. The b term is coefficient, which is the number in front of the x. The 8 is multiplied by the x, so whatever number is multiplied by the x. If there's not a number there, but there's got an x, just like here, it would be an invisible 1. You would do the same thing with a 1. But in this case, we have an 8. So I'm going to, in place of the b here, I'm going to put an 8. I'm going to divide it by 2, put it in my parentheses here, and we're going to square it. Let's take the next step. Let's divide this first, because PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, says we're going to do what's inside the parentheses first. We take 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to continue it down here. We have 4, and that is going to be squared. And remember, we're squaring. We're not multiplying 2 times 4. We're taking 4 times 4. Whatever's the base, we're going to multiply it times itself the number of times as the power says. So 4 times 4 is 16. That is the term we're going to add here, and we're going to add it here. So I'm going to rewrite this with that term there. X squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 20 plus 16. So this term that I found, I'm adding it here, and I'm adding it here to keep it in balance. Our next step is we're going to factor this. This here is a perfect square trinomial. And perfect square trinomials are very easy to factor. We just put the parentheses here. We take this first term, which is the x squared, and we just put the x here. Because we know the perfect square trinomial is going to be multiplied by itself, so we just have the x here. And then to find what is the other part of this binomial, we're going to take your b term one more time. That's this 8 in front of here. And we're going to divide it by 2. So it's the b term divided by 2. We're not squaring it this time. We're just taking the b term divided by 2. In this case, we have the 8. And again, we're dividing it by 2, which is 4. So we're going to add 4x plus 4. And because it's a perfect square trinomial, this is a binomial, we're squaring it. So it's x plus 4 times x plus 4 gives us this trinomial. On this side, we add this together, so 20 plus 16 is 36. We're getting much closer to solving this now, because we have a squared term here on the left-hand side. We can use the square root property to solve this. So I have x plus 4 parentheses squared is equal to 36. I'm just rewriting it, and we're going to take the square root of this side, and whatever we do to this side, we're going to do to the other side. So we're going to take the square root of that side. So we're taking the square root of both sides. This looks complicated, but it's really not. We have a squared term here, and it's a binomial, the whole thing inside this parentheses being squared, and we're taking the square root. All that means we need to do is just take what's inside here and just write it. The square root of a square gets rid of the square, so those two kind of cancel out. So we just take the interior and rewrite it, x plus 4. So it just gets it out from this binomial, which is squared. On the right-hand side, we have 36. We know that and big thing I almost forgot to tell you, super important. When we're taking the square root on this right-hand side, we have to do the positive and the negative. Don't forget the positive and the negative of the square root. So we're going to get 2 answers here. 2 answers, and that's important because it's a squared matter, so we should wind up with 2, right? It's a quadratic. So we're going to take the plus and the minus of this. The square root of 36 is 6, right? 6 times 6 is 36. So the square root of 36 is 6. We're taking the positive and the negative of those. So I like to split it into two solutions like this. And on this side, I'm going to rewrite it with the plus sign. X plus 4 is equal to plus 6. So that's the top version. And then I'm going to rewrite the same thing over here, we'll split it in half. X plus 4 equals, and I'm going to use the -6 side. So all I've done is split it into two equations here, and we're going to solve for x in both of these. This is a plus 4. I subtract 4 from both sides. So I've got x is equal to positive 6 minus 4 is 2. And on this side, I've got a plus 4, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Draw my line. We bring down the x. This becomes 0 is equal to -6. And I subtract 4 more from it. That's -10. So I've got two solutions here. X is equal to 2 and x is equal to -10. Those are the two solutions for my quadratic that I found through completing the square. Now you know how to complete the square. There's going to be some additional videos that are going to show you some of the wrinkles that you may encounter when completing the square. So make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when the next video comes out, and you'll keep your grade alive and subscribe. Thank you.